there guys, Colin here. Possibly the most overlooked and vastly important aspect of your guitar is the strings. Without your strings, your guitar would be a useless lump of wood and metal. The strings are the first point in where any of the sound is made. It's a place where you can put your emotion into it. I mean, you can have the best amp and the best pickups in the world, but they're going to sound crap if you didn't have a good set of strings on there to start with. One of the most major parts of choosing what strings you should put on your guitar is the string gauge. The string gauge refers to the thickness of the strings. Strings usually come in sets where the gauge has been matched so that the tension is equal across the guitar neck. I've managed to acquire myself a rainbow of guitar strings from the good people at Ernie Ball, who are sponsoring Scotland's only rock and metal festival, Les Fest, which I'll be playing with my band next weekend. This gives me a chance to look through their basic range of strings and see the benefits of each of the different sets. With thinner strings you run the risk of them flapping about too much. The lower tension can also cause problems like tuning issues and fret buzz. But for shredding lead work, they are superior because you don't need to apply so much pressure to fret these notes, and quick legato runs and wide bends are dead easy. But just be careful because bending really light strings can be all too easy and you maybe overshoot and overbend, and that never sounds great. Beginners are often recommended to start with a set of 9s. That's because these are nice light gauge strings and they don't require so much pressure to push down and fret notes for beginner players who haven't built up the calluses on their fingertips yet, right down to the bone. I also find these work quite well for standard tuned Floyd equipped guitars. A set of 10s are your regular workaday guitar strings. Standard tuning is where these guys are at. They suffer less tuning problems than a set of 9s, and the extra thickness just adds a little bit more beefiness to your tone. Upgrade to these when you get strong enough fingers. Skinny top, heavy bottom show off the fact that thicker strings sound better for your rhythm chug, but your lighter gauge strings on your treble end are better for your fast solos. These things would really benefit the heavy metal player who's playing in drop D or maybe even drop C, somewhere around there, where they need the extra thickness and tension on those low strings to really make them chug, but they still want to have enough accessibility for their solos so they can do the legato runs and wide bends. In general, thicker strings sound better. There's some hard science to support this. Thicker strings have more tension at the same pitch than thinner strings do, which means that they require more energy to make them vibrate. It does mean you'll have to hit them a bit harder than thin strings, but your payoff is a louder, tonally stronger sound because the energy you put in comes back out as sound. Also, an increase in the metal mass moving above the magnetic pickup will push your pickup harder, which will produce louder and possibly a more gainy sound. This is a set of 11s. Now they're quite thick strings. I would expect jazz players to love these because jazz music doesn't require the wide bends that you would have in rock music. So that means you can benefit from having these tuned up to standard tuning, and that extra tension all comes out as pure tone. Of course, if you are a rock player and wide bends and legato runs are your thing, you might want to tune these down a bit, maybe half a step to a whole step down, and that'll be easier on your fingers. Now we're getting to the really chunky end of the spectrum. The beefy and not even slinky strings are really for your heavy metal players who are playing way below drop C. 7-string packets come in these sort of gauges too, so that's the kind of tuning you can expect from this. That is the sort of tension and thickness and chunk you're going to get. For these, I'd suggest C standard and B standard respectively. It's worthwhile experimenting with strings to see what kind of string gauge benefits your style of playing. I've been using Rotosound 12s for a while now, which contain a slightly different range of string gauges than any of the Ernie Ball ones do. I tune to drop B flat with these, and my fingers are so used to these thick strings that I can't really play any guitar set up with 9s anymore. It feels too weird to me. Thicker strings are important for the style of music I play. I need the bass end strings to really bounce back and really punch and have that tension, but I have noticed that the higher strings, the thickness and the tension there is slightly restrictive to some of the faster and wider bends that I want to play. It's all a bit of a compromise really, but now that I've blacked myself a whole bunch of these strings, I'm going to build up my own custom set from the different strings in these packets and see if I can find something that suits me right down to the ground. Suggest you do too. See you later.